Hi, so this is a recording of a DIN talk that I've actually already given. So this is a really weird one where I delivered a talk and I felt like the way that it landed, maybe it was the energy in the room or just it'd been a really full on and great day. But I wanted to redo this in some way so that then I could try to learn from what was like potentially failure. I'm not really sure. But so I wanted to re-record this because I'm never going to do this talk again. So I wanted to just sort of preserve it as a potential artifact for learning. So I like to keep things fresh, and it's not possible for me to do the same talk twice because things are moving so quickly with AI. So the briefing here, so this is the keynote at the end of a whole day that was just about AI in housing. And the challenge was, how can we make AI happen in housing? So that's sort of a bit of the context here. So starting with what was in my mind at the time was about chess, actually. So AI has been around for a really long time. Kasparov and Deep Blue, obviously sort of way back in the 80s. That was when a computer was able to beat grandmaster at chess. And this was amazing. A few months ago, in the summer of 2025, there was a kind of random little chess app called Leela Peace Odds. So this is a chess bot that is able that it's been optimized to play without particular pieces. So you can play without your queen or without your rooks or whatever. So that it's asymmetric. You're not playing against the same type of person. Or the same, you don't have the same piece arrangements. And there was an evaluation which was published just before I gave this talk, which was about how it's able to beat grandmasters at chess without the queen. And part of why this kind of haunted me is because I play chess with my 6-year-old son, and I play him without my queen. So you think about how much better these systems are now than they were, about how we might need to change some of the way we're benchmarking, because it's no longer sufficient to assess a chess system by whether it can beat a grandmaster. It's now more like whether it can beat, like how much it can beat a grandmaster by without a queen or what have you. And for me, this was kind of haunting because of the sort of personal relationship that I have with my child, and that it's like the computer is that much better. And it's not even obvious that the computer would be able to be that much better, because in chess, you can kind of trade pieces one for one quite often. So it wasn't obvious to me that you'd be able to make a system that was that much better. And so, yeah, I think that sort of shows something about the real potential for AI, even in ways that we hadn't even considered yet. But what I see a lot of in housing, and it was great to hear lots about this at DIN as well, was I see it kind of like people are using AI as a hammer and they're trying to find nails and bang it in. And this is something I've written about in Inside Housing as well, as part of the 3-part series that I've just been finishing now. So this is the wrong way to be using any tool, right? And AI is no exception. So we need to be solving good problems and looking in our toolkit and saying, yeah, okay, I can use the AI hammer for this one, bang. Okay, yeah, I need to use the culture hammer for this one. Culture's a bit hard, so we're going to need to work on that over a longer period of time. That kind of thing. We shouldn't accept boards saying we want AI. We need to help support our boards in housing because there's a lot of that happening at the moment. Boards saying, we want you to do AI. It's like, well, actually, what is the outcome that can enable for customers? What is it that we need to be doing as an organization? How does AI support our corporate strategy? And how do we govern and make that interact with the rest of our IT or digital strategy? I think that's where we need to focus our energy. And so the context of housing right now, so all of the images here, including the ones at the beginning, are AI generated, of course. So this is one of social housing on the left there. So we've got regulation, we've got known data integrity issues, we've got kind of reactive at best. And then we have this other world over on the right. So the UK government is spending vast amounts of money investing in AI. At the moment, the National Audit Office have been producing loads of reports about different trials of AI within the public sector. For example, co-pilot trials. They've been sharing those. That's great. DWP just released one a couple of weeks ago. And now we're seeing the evaluations of effectiveness in government, and the UK government's AI Opportunities Action Plan is essentially mandating this, saying we're going to make use of AI. We're going to make sure that this technology is supporting the country. So that's cool, and that means there's a lot of focus and a lot of energy and a lot of skill going into that, which is great. The other side of things is in the private sector, where there's huge amounts of capital which are going into the bubble that is AI, but this is building out huge amounts of infrastructure. There's big bets being placed on AI within all kinds of businesses, every kind of business. This is it's sort of railway mania-esque, if you like. It's very, very bubbly, but what it's meaning is that there's a huge amount of attention going into this space, which includes the whole like data-driven decisions place, as well as natural language processing and computer vision, which is some of the shinier front end stuff. And the kind of landscape here means that housing's missing out because it's mostly not publicly run. So it's either arm's length, or it's for profit, or it's not for profit, or some other structures also exist. And it doesn't have the spare capital that or the investment capital that the private sector is getting. So housing with AI is kind of missing out a bit, and that's sort of a part of the reality of the context. What I wanted to do is step back and think about how housing has taken some other innovations. So this is a sort of embodification of lean. So a number of years ago, lean was really popular in housing. People were trying to measure and control things, which is great. It's great, and it's an innovation in the sense that it's a new way of doing things, and it needs systems and processes to support that, and culture as well, of course. And when I asked the room at DIN, nearly everybody had been trying it, and nearly nobody was still doing it, or still like living and breathing lean. Okay, I'll move on to the next one. So this one is about systems thinking. So this is about considering the whole problem rather than just the siloed problem. And so some people had heard of this in the room, but not everybody. And really, I think probably the core example would be if you've got a complaints process that is really overwhelmed, improving the efficiency of that complaints process is probably not the right thing to be doing. The right thing to be doing is to look at the wider system and saying, what's causing all of these complaints? Can we reduce those from outside the complaint system? And 9 times out of 10, that's going to be fix your repair system. Sometimes that will be about fixing your ASB process, right? But it's about considering the whole. And I think with AI, with our AI hammer, there's a real danger that within our silos, we start hammering away and making meaningless changes to efficiency within silos. And so and that's kind of why I brought this up. But systems thinking was something that was brought in as an innovation, and now it's sort of not really considered. And that's, just a reflection on that. Next one, smart homes. So IoT and connected devices. I'd recommend DIN's report on this connected homes topic as something to read about some things we've learned about this sort of thrust of innovation. And again, lots of people were doing this, lots of people running pilots, lots of people not measuring them very well and understanding whether they were delivering value. And that's just another one of these like big investment programs around innovation that haven't really paid off. And then this final one is about digital. So digital has, in my view, gone really badly for the sector. And that's because we haven't put the customer at the heart of it. And that is not cliche. That's because that's how digital works, is you're delighting the customer. And if we had done digital right, we would have seen entirely different ways of delivering housing services. that are entirely reimagined ways of doing it. Yeah, we can talk. I'll talk about this a little bit later on, but what we've got now is a mess where nearly everybody is not happy with some aspect of their core system, and they can't get away from it because they've got this vendor lock-in, and so we've got ourselves into a real mess with digital. And so my challenge with this talk is really to say, well, what are we going to do in order to not mess up with AI, which is really just a part of digital, right? So how do we not screw up? So AI can help with efficiency, but we need to have this systems thinking to increase customer value. And something else I'd like to point to at this point is the regulator for social housing. So in England, we have the regulator for social housing, and the sector risk profile is really, really helpful and points towards data integrity as being a really, really big problem, including for things like mergers. So there's a little bit about AI in there, which people at the DIN conference hadn't read about, which was concerning GDPR. So that emerging technologies, including artificial intelligence, you need to comply with relevant laws, including data protection, right? That's good advice. And I think that's where we need to be making sure that we are being responsible with data. And there's a bit of a skills capability gap in some organizations where it's a little bit chaotic in terms of like the shadow IT and the shadow AI. So I think it's not necessarily just a risk, it's an issue for a number of providers. So I think the way that we don't screw this up is by looking at other sectors and doing what they're doing, but doing that right now. So in fintech, so we have fintech now. 50 years ago, it would have been unthinkable that you wouldn't have had a bank to walk into, like a physical structure. Now we have all these challenger banks that are virtually based. We have a whole industry, and this is all based off of the open banking standards. So this technical thing has allowed a whole load of innovation that is better for customers. And for the incumbents, it's meaning they're needing to innovate in order to remain relevant and to maintain market share. So this is good for the consumer. In medicine, finance is highly regulated. Medicine is even more regulated because this is people's lives. And in oncology, so in cancer, we have breast cancer screening with computer vision that outperforms human clinicians. So fewer people are dying from breast cancer as a result of AI, and this is fantastic. Right? This is great. And there are big investment programs like Our Future Health, which is in the UK, which is collecting really wide longitudinal data, so over a large period of time, about how people are living and about their health. And this is then going to enable, hopefully, in a number of years' time, will allow some really deep insights about the nature of health. So this is about health, not about sickness management. Yeah, it's not about healthcare, it's about sickness management. It's solving a health problem rather than an illness problem. And this could be transformative in terms of the NHS. It's not about making more efficient hospitals, it's about having fewer people go to hospital. And in retail, we've been running data systems for a really, really long time. Think about Clubcard, think about Ocado with the robotic warehouses. And data is essentially how we've gone from having the corner shops that we'd have had 100 years ago through to the automated supermarket chains that we have with global supply chain now. Whether that's better or worse is not the point. The point is that is more efficient and you're able to deliver value at scale. In utilities, something that I talk about a lot is the largest energy supplier in the UK. It's no longer Centrica British Gas. It is Octopus. Octopus are a tech company. You may be aware of Kraken, which is their data platform that sits underneath it with the analytics engine that lots of transactions, like electrical transactions, are running through. This is like electricity isn't something that you might think naturally is going to be sort of led by a technology firm. It should be led by an energy firm. But we've seen in something that's as core and as sort of important national infrastructure as energy, that we are now having that delivered by technology firms. is it so crazy to think that in housing we might see something similar? Yes, we have bricks and mortar, but we also have huge amounts of data that we need to be using in order to deliver services efficiently and effectively. So how we can do that? We can be innovating in a coordinated way, and this doesn't have to. You can start this right now. So the hacked UK housing data standards, which have been around for a while, they are a data format that means that if you do it like that, then everybody knows what a complaint means, right? Because it means the same thing. And there's a lot of technical detail underneath there. But when you're doing IT stuff, if you do it in the UK housing data standards format, then it makes it much more portable. And it means that we all know what we're talking about. So some of the data integrity issues that we're having become a bit easier to solve, and they might come to the surface a little bit more easily. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was the Creative Commons licensing. So we're all making policies. We've got AI policies, we've got IT policies, we've got data protection policies. Let's license those by default with a Creative Commons, by attribution license. But choose some of the existing license frameworks to say we can make this reusable by others so that we have less waste in terms of our reusable assets. And that really leans into the sector's strength in terms of collaboration. Why I think the data standards are really important is because I imagine a world where we have shared models. So we don't all, the thousands of us that are providing housing, there's thousands of different providers, we don't all need to have an arrears model. We don't all need to optimize our repairs process. We don't all need to build a model that's predicting damp and mold. Let's build it once and build a good one that we maintain centrally, that we can all call on. We can take it and customize it for our instances. But and we can use some of that licensing infrastructure that I described earlier in order to make that happen. Just something to think about. The other part of it is peer assurance. So I get this quite a lot when I'm talking to people about AI and about how you can govern and control it, is that people are like, well, we're doing this, but I want somebody to check it. Now, I think we shouldn't be paying consultants to check that. I think we should be doing that as a peer assurance group. And that if I have an approach to, replacing my housing management system, that I can go to a community and say, I'm thinking of doing this thing. Who's done a procurement on this before? What were your lessons learned? Can you provide me with some, not reassurance, genuine assurance that my approach is going to avoid some of the pitfalls that you might have had, or what you felt like was good practice? If you did this again, what we do? And that we can almost formalize that as a peer assurance group. And that it's not just about technology. It's also about things like your approach to handling complaints, or how you train your staff. It's not about reassurance. It's about providing that genuine assurance. So I hope this makes sense. This is easier. It was easier in the room to see that people were with me on this. But that's kind of part of what I think we need to be doing, because the fragmentation that we've seen in digital has led, I'm of the view that this fragmentation has sort of led to some of the problems that we've got in terms of data integrity, but also in terms of like the ability to deliver our core services well. Okay, so hopefully that gives some stuff, because you can do this stuff now. You can do these things today. If you've got an arrears model, you can license it. You can just get your organization, say, let's make this available. Why wouldn't we do that? And if you think about how that interacts with things like stairs, so transparency for tenants, how you're making decisions about these things, let's publish it. This feels like really good governance practice. So stepping back, what is the purpose of social housing? So this is the NHF's line on it, which I think is great. Providing good quality housing that people can afford. That's what we're trying to do. This is our purpose. Right? So given that that's our purpose, how do we measure ourselves as housing providers? How do we find that how do we measure, what are our KPIs, like the real KPIs? So we might have underneath it, we might have things like customer satisfaction or like repairs, time to response. In reality, I think a lot of providers, when I'm in boardrooms, a lot of the providers say, these are the KPIs. your G score, your V score, your C score, and if you're chief exec, how many units you're running. And that's kind of the language which is used, how many units. And so this is coming from a compliance place. So these are regulated for social housing scores. And it's how many units, how many homes you're running, because this is some sort of measure of power, if you like, of the chief exec. And I think kind of like how I was talking about chess, we need to, if we're going to stay ahead of this and provide for our mission, we need to move beyond this as the way that we measure ourselves. We need to think about how many happy families we have in homes, how many decent nights sleep people are having. If you're waiting for a repair to happen, you're not having a good night's sleep. If you don't have someone in that house because it's an empty home, nobody's having a good night's sleep there. I think we need to sort of rethink a little bit about how we are challenging ourselves and how we are truly like feeling our mission and living our mission through the data that we collect and how we assess ourselves. So in terms of things that you can be doing right now, so if you're a member of DIN, then the DIN AI activities plan for 2026, there's loads of them. I would get involved in them. If you're not a member of DIN, don't do that, but sort of either join or tag on coattails if you can. So you could join Haley. So I chair a group of there's about 300 of us now that a fraction of that will turn up each month to try to build sector capability around AI and digital. And this is free, and we're building resources. So we recently built an AI guide for IT directors in housing. So this is a 2-page document built by IT directors in housing and a few AI experts to help to shape the priority, because we were having a lot of IT directors getting pressure from senior management and from board even to be doing AI, when really you need to be sorting out cyber, right? You need to be sorting out cyber and some of the data integrity issues that are underpinning the system. So yeah, you should look at the guide for the full details there. But I think getting involved in those kinds of communities is really, really useful. And the third point is kind of the hammer and nail bit, which is aligning your digital activity with your corporate strategy. Because it doesn't just exist on its own. It's about your mission and what you're trying to deliver, and about how digital tooling can support that, and about where the capability resides within your organization or outside of your organization, because we've outsourced a lot of our technology leadership to vendors. You might want to think strategically about bringing some of that into your organization. So aligning that digital activity with your corporate strategy is going to be key if you're going to get good value from digital. And within digital, there's the AI chunk, which is very much front of mind at the moment, but actually this is about digital and data. So my closing comment on this really is that there's a super powerful technology which is powered by data that's allowing us to solve all kinds of problems, from chess to cancer. We've got vibe coding now happening, so where people are able to just code stuff up, like really rough mock-ups very, very quickly. So barriers are changing here. So what we need to be doing is solving the right problems in housing together, and making sure that what we're doing is delivering that decent homes that people can afford. So thanks very much for listening. There's a QR code here, but if you're watching this, it's probably because you saw it on LinkedIn anyway. So that QR code is just for my LinkedIn page, because I post about this stuff all the time. And yeah, if you're interested in this at all, or if you have any feedback, if you could just let me know, because I as I say, not sure this landed quite right when I delivered it. So I'd really appreciate any feedback on this and about how we might make this a bit more sort of easier to digest, perhaps, because I think this topic is not going to go away. Take care. Thanks very much. Bye.